A buyer walks through your home, spends time in every room, and asks thoughtful questions and leaves saying, "This looks great." And then you hear nothing. No offer, no follow up, just silence. Most sellers assume that means buyer wasn't interested. In reality, that's usually not the case. In markets like East Brunswick, North Brunswick, South Brunswick, and Monroe, I see this pattern consistently. Buyers often do like the home, they just don't move forward with it. And that distinction matters because the decision doesn't break during the showing, it happens after when the buyer leaves and starts thinking. There's a short window where the buyers are deciding whether to act or wait. They are comparing what they saw, replaying the details, and asking themselves if anything felt uncertain. That's where most decisions are and made. What stops an offer is rarely one obvious issue. It's usually smaller things that create hesitation. Maybe the layout didn't feel functional as they expected. Maybe the home didn't stand out compared to something else they saw. Sometimes it's just a feeling they can't fully explain, but it's enough to make them pause. Individually, these don't seem like major concerns, but put together, they create just enough uncertainty for a buyer to move on. One thing I always point out to sellers is this: silence after a showing is not neutral. If a buyer doesn't act within a short window, it's usually not because they are still deciding, it's because they have already moved on to something else. Buyers don't typically come back once that moment has passed, especially when new listings continue to come on the market. Think of it like a hiring decision. A candidate can be well qualified and well liked, but if there's any hesitation, the offer might goes to someone who feels like a more certain choice. Buyers approach homes the same way. So the goal isn't just to get people through the door. The goal is to make the decision feel clear and easy while the interest is still fresh. Because the longer the buyer has to think, the less likely they are to act. If your home is getting activity but not converting into offers, the issue is often not obvious. It's happening in the gap between interest and commitment. And that's where the right strategy makes the difference. Every home has a different path to the market. The key is knowing what yours looks like before you make the move, because that's usually where the outcome is decided.